Right, welcome back. So here we are then, the third one in finding maps on VAG EDC15. Remembering that we've got to find all our maps in order to understand what it is we're looking at. We found so far our EGR, driver's wish, start map, and our torque limiter right there in the other videos. The next one we're going to look at is right here. Now, Winols hasn't correctly identified it, and the reason it hasn't correctly identified it is because the axis data, this here, is not right next to the map, and so it gets a bit confused and it thinks it's a 3x13, and it's really not. It's this whole map here. Now, there's several ways of making a map yourself. I guess over the next few videos I'll show different ways. I don't know, I'll show them the way I know them, the other ways of doing it, and that sort of thing. But for now I'm going to try and do it the easiest way I know how, and the quickest way I know how. So I know that I'm interested in this map because of the shape of it, and I know EDC15, as you will soon if you don't already, so don't worry about it. But this shape here, I want this map. So first things first, Winols has ID'd it wrong, so I'm not interested in that. So I'm going to right click it and then click delete potential map. Okay. So you can find this map in text form, and there's other videos out there that will help you find it in text form, and you can find it in text form with the help of these here. Now there's two shortcut keys I'm going to use here, W and M, and W will lessen the number of columns I've got here in my text form, and M will make more columns in my text form. So as I press them like this, look, it makes more and it makes less. Now you can find them, this map, by using this graph here, and you can see when they all line up, you know you've got a rough idea of where the map's going to be. You can see, look, if I go more, look, they don't look right. If I go less, it's starting to line up. And look at that, now that looks pretty good to me. And now I can use the control key and the arrow key to move my cursor. Well, let me re-explain that. As I said, I'm making these videos live. The cursor key will move your cursor. If I use the control and the cursor key, I move the whole data and keep my cursor on the same number. Very useful, that. So I could scroll like that until I think, yes, look, everything's lined up. I can go ahead and highlight and make my map whatever, that sort of a thing. But I like to do it a different way, so let's come back here to our 2D. Now you can use this to zoom our X and Y axes like this. You see what I've done there? I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, but that's still the same map that I'm interested in. All I'm doing is zooming in a bit. Alright. Now Winols has got this clever function here. I can switch that on and highlight an area, and it will automatically make the map if it grabs it correctly. So let's try. Well, that looks alright. Looking down here. Okay. And now we can drag it by holding the mouse. And again at the other side. Now I would say that's got our map highlighted quite nicely. If I go back to text form, there it is, look, in exactly the same way. I could have dragged it and highlighted it there manually myself. Everything's still lined up as I had it. But again, Winols will line it up by using this tool here. and I find this the easiest way to do it. I could do it myself here. If I turn off that, no, that's not grabbed it, hang on. Ooh, my eyes. There, 13 by 16. So I could do it myself like that, or I could do it with support map selection here, making sure that Winols has grabbed it right here. Extend it to the end, extend this one, there we are, to that end. And then when I think I've got my map correct, I can then use the shortcut K to make that map. So I'm going to do that now. And there we are, I've made the map. Winols has called it a map. That's what I've called it, it's a map. Now, if I'm right, at this stage it doesn't matter too much if I'm not, but if I'm right, I'm looking for some axes now on this file, and I know it's 13 by 16. I'm going to put my zoom function down just for me before I forget, and I'm going to turn off my support map selection because that gets ever so annoying if you leave that on and all you're trying to do is highlight a certain area. So what I'm going to do, I need to find axis. I know it's 13 and I know it's by 16. So what I'm going to do, in the same way that Winols knows that this is a 21 by 3, I'm going to try and find a 13 by 16. So if I come back to my torque limit here, 21 by 3, and then I have a look in text form here, Winols identified this as 21 by 3 here, look. It saw a 3 here in binary. 1, 2, 3. That is map data, don't worry about that for now. And then it finds a 21. This is info, not for us, don't worry about that. So we found a 3 and we found a 21. That's the point I'm trying to make to you there. So I should be able to find somewhere by this map, hopefully, a 13 and a 16. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to look around this map for a 13 and a 16. So, where are we at? Well, there's a 16. Alright, and then there is a 13. So I'm just going to logically guess that those are my axes. I'm going to hope that they are, I'm going to put them in and I'm going to see if it looks right. So remember, we've got a 13 and a 16 right next to a map that is 13 by 16, so it makes logical sense. Okay, so I'm going to double click that one to bring up my map. This is, again, there's other ways of doing this. This is just the way I do it and it's the simplest way I've found. Okay, so there is the 16. So the next square is the first one of my axis, not the 16. The 16 is the information of the axis. The next one is the first number of my axis. So I'm going to put my cursor on that one, and then I'm going to double click the properties on my y-axis because that's my 16. And I'm going to select, at the moment it's on data source 1, 2, 3, yada yada yada, because Winols doesn't know where my axis is. So I'm going to change my data source to my EEPROM. And I've put my cursor on my hex dump already, so I'm going to click from hex dump cursor. I could manually enter an address there, but far simpler is to put my hex dump cursor on it and then click from hex dump cursor. So I'm going to do that, and look, it's done it, and look, and we know by these numbers that that is engine speed in RPM. Right, so let's do the same for our 13, which is there. So again, I'm going to put my hex dump cursor on the first one after my 13, which is there. I'm going to go to my map, I'm going to double click the properties of my x-axis, I'm going to click EEPROM, and I'm going to click from where I put the hex dump cursor. And there we are. So, have I made that correctly? Well, it doesn't really matter. You could change things and you'd find out later when you changed it if you'd done it right or wrong. But I happen to know that that's correct. And if that's correct, then what are we looking at here? Well, those numbers are math. Math in the cylinder. So, that is our math. It's in milligrams. That cannot be the right amount. The number's far too big, like it is with others that we've looked at. So I'm going to play with the factor. I'm going to go with 0.1. And now that, look at that, 850. We know that's a nice value, used quite a lot for our math on this file. So I know that that is correct. That is our math in milligrams per cycle. Or stroke. So if that's our air, and that's our fuel, oh gosh, get it right. If that's our air, and that is our engine speed, then this must be our fuel. So, that's injection quantity in milligrams per stroke, and we know that our factor on this file for milligrams per stroke is 0.01. And that's really starting to make sense now. So if we're limiting our injection quantity against math and against engine speed, then this must be, as you'll know in future, our smoke limiter. And there we are. We've not only found our smoke limiter by its shape, we've also used Winols a bit here. Our first experience of making our own map using what we can see. We can either use the support map selection, which you can do on this zoom by the way, or you can zoom in more with the X and the Y factor. We've pressed K to make the map when it was ready, or we can use our control and cursor keys. We can move just our cursor with just our cursor keys. We can press M and we can press W until our graph here lines up and scroll. So there's more than one way to do it, and don't worry, it's a lot to take in, but it'll all make sense further and further down the line you go. This is just the beginning. So that's how we find our smoke limiter, and that's how we help ourselves to make maps. I hope that made sense. It is a lot to take in, that one, but I'll see you on the next one.